No.
Okay. So we need, if I could do that with just a frayed thread, imagine what would happen if you let me sever, if you let me sever that full fragrant curl that holds this earth like a blue diamond ornament dangling from your ear. Let it be mine, so I might swallow at last this tiny sacred object, this world that has caressed your cheek so many times. Hafiz has learned to sing all night with a divine eloquence and humor to help fill God's artists and seekers to the brim. Oh, let me near you tonight, beloved, with my heart concealed in my hands. Let me near you, and I will place it at your feet forever.
Wow. Love it. Love Rumi. Okay. Thank you so much. Beautifully read by Stanley. Thank you so much for your contribution. And we're going to do a short little break.
Oh, not yet.
Huh?
Let's start the Facebook.
Not yet, just when we start, I think. So we can be more like, say whatever we like. So we'll welcome everybody here tonight as we join symphony, frequency, and vibrations towards our higher self. We want to invite all those spirits that are here already with us, and we would invite to any spirits that would like to join us in this journey. We will be here every Tuesday, and we welcome everybody in this conversation or chat about the Spiritism. We invite our guardian angels to join us, and may we get out of here better than when we came here. And may we get together, sometimes disagreeing in opinion, but connected through our hearts. And then we will start our activity tonight. Okay, now we can start. So you're gonna be in charge of that. You starting now?
We're live.
We're live. Okay, welcome to Spiritism Network. And I am Cynthia, and you are, who are you?
I'm Steve.
And we're gonna be talking about Spiritism. So our goal here tonight is to understand a little bit more about Spiritism with our heart and eye and mind opens to this conversation that Kardec had in 1859 when this book came out. So this book we called What is Spiritism? And there are different versions of it. And in this book, he is talking with a critic first. That's what we're going to be talking tonight. And then a skeptic, and then a priest about Spiritism. And of course, they were against Spiritism. And let's see how Kardec handled the answers to those people. They are completely against Spiritism. It's not that they don't understand. It's like they put themselves in a position that they are against. So let's see how it works. So Steve, you're gonna be, so you can talk with us, and Steve is gonna be reading the. See if Edmara is there, but we cannot hear. Do you hear anything?
I have headphones.
Oh, okay. So, well, then we're not gonna hear it. We need to hear her. And the Facebook too. You want me to open the Facebook so I can see here, or you should be able to see both. So if people talk with us.
We have a hello from Nick Sanchez.
Oi, Edmara. How are you doing? Welcome. So Edmara should be able to talk with us too. I don't think we can use the microphone. Can we hear? Do you have a speaker on your computer?
Yeah, but it'll feedback when we turn it on.
Do you think it's going to be a problem if we hear what they're talking to us? Do you think so? Let's see. We'll try. Otherwise, you can be in charge of that. Okay. So let's start. Okay, here it is. So this chapter 1. So this book, What is Spiritism? It's this introduction, the knowledge of the invisible world, which is the Spiritism's invitation to us, right? This world is invisible world of manifestation of spirits. So it started actually March 1848 here in the United States with the Fox sisters. So the Fox sisters, they were meetings and they had a manifestation at their home. And then in France, at the same time with Allan Kardec, the turning tables. The manifestation of the turning tables became a very popular thing in parties and a lot of houses in France. But then, because of Allan Kardec's friend, a hypnotist, a very serious man, invited him to see. Say, there is now the tables are not only magnetized, but they can answer questions. They have a brain. And then Kardec, very serious, very strict with this scientific kind of view, look, and personality says, what are you saying? Unless I observe and I prove that the table has a brain and can answer questions, this sounds to me like just a fable. This is a lie. And so then that's how it started. Actually, in his biography, I was telling Steve that his first meeting that he went to a house of people to see the manifestation of the turning table was on a Tuesday at 8 p.m., just like we are doing here. And I didn't remember that. And then when I was rereading his biography, I'm like, oh, this is very interesting. But anyway, so Kardec had this posture of this openness to call people, not people that would agree with the Spiritism and its manifestation of the invisible world, but also with people that disagree, that said that, this is all a lie. There is someone that is producing these kind of phenomena. They are not real. So he liked to invite, we're going to talk about this here, if they were serious about studying and observing something with a more like a serious approach, he would invite those people to come to those meetings because he didn't want to make a mistake. He was totally against that. We're going to see that too. So let's see what he answers when the critic starts to ask him questions. So the critic comes to Allan Kardec and says, why don't you convince me? Why don't you convince me that Spiritism, it is a real deal. It is something that is real, and I need to be convinced. And
Allan Kardec's very interesting because his viewpoint is that I'm not here to convince anybody. He's not here to actually win followers. It's not like we're not here to convert people like missionaries that kind of go and convert people. We're kind of here, and this is what we're doing. And if you like it, then join us. If you're interested, he says, like, if somebody's really interested, he'll sit down, he'll answer their questions, he'll take the time. But like this critic comes at him and he's just saying, he says like, I'm here to disprove Spiritism. He said this is why I'm here. I'm not even here to look at it or I'm not curious or interested. I'm here to actually disprove it. So I mean, Alan Kardec is like, well, let me, I'm not going to waste your time, and don't waste mine.
It's true. And I was thinking in my life, how many times I was in that critic position, that I said to something, an idea or someone, and I said, convince me. I was able to remember, that I didn't believe and I need to be convinced of something. It doesn't have to be something like very big, like, for example, a new philosophy, like we are talking here, but a smaller thing. Something in life, like convince me that what you are saying, I'm sorry, what you are saying, I should believe you. This is the ego, of course, saying, you need to convince me in order for me to believe you. What do you think, Stanley?
Well, I think that those of us who have had the experience of Spiritism need no convincing. And no amount of convincing is going to convince someone who hasn't had that experience. So the experience has to precede the convincing is worthless. It's a matter of having the experience, and once having had the experience, even if you don't understand it, but you've had the experience, you know there's something else out there that I didn't know before. And no matter how erudite the skeptic is, no amount of convincing is going to change him. He has to have the experience himself.
There's a saying I used to hear, you can't graft a new idea on a closed mind. So if you go, this critic comes in, he's already made up his mind. So it's like, well, why am I going to try to convince you? You already made your decision.
The thing that I find disturbing, you want to talk about a priest who doesn't believe in Spiritism. Jesus himself says you have to be born again, you have to, which is the statement that absolutely gives credence to reincarnation. So for a priest to not believe in Spiritism, to me, is really very strange.
It is true. It is true. And I remember when I started learning Spiritism, I was around 16. But then I was reading for 4 years before I started attending Spiritist centers. And I remember that I tried to convince my whole family. And I tried to convince my friends. I remember when I tried that. And I used to be in discussions and long conversations trying to... It reminded me of a friend of mine from San Francisco. He's a Buddhist, and he said that his mission is to convince his friends about reincarnation. I was thinking about him right now. And he said, that's my mission. I need to do that. I need to talk about reincarnation with my friends. They need to learn this.
Well, I know my mission in life. I've been on the planet 92 years, and I know my mission in life. And it's not to convince anybody of anything, but certainly to have the experience myself. And my mission is very, very simple, it's salvation through forgiveness. And when I can forgive myself, I can forgive the skeptics, and I can forgive everybody else. And people know who I am by my actions.
Exactly.
Mm.
Exactly.
So what I say has some credence for them. But not to convince them. It's just that, hey, I want to be like you. Give me a drag on that before you throw it away,
Yeah. Yeah. It's a silly idea that I want everybody to believe in what I believe. But now that I know a little bit about psychology, I understand why I was trying to do that. I was trying to convince myself.
Okay.
Exactly, because I was not convinced. I had my doubts. And wow, it took me years to, and studying other things parallel to Spiritism to see that other things that were not connected to Spiritism, but then we're saying exactly the same things, like, for example, A Course in Miracles or the law of one, right? Other studies, other segments that were going towards the same directions, and then I realized, whoa, what I this is, I'm convinced this is true. But even though I had experienced mediumship and communications with the spirits, I had doubt. I still was skeptic about, very critical.
I mean, for me, it's been like I started my spiritual journey about 10 years ago. Um, and before that, I was not interested in spirituality at all. And um, I had to try a lot of different things. And in my journey, I've had a lot of different phases. But if I had like gone from being somebody who had no belief system or no nothing, like right into Spiritism, I would have been like, put the brakes on, like stop right there. But I had to go through a lot of different phases where I was starting to try meditation and try, um, breathing exercises even, and self-awareness. And then I experimented with Buddhism. I tried different things and go to different circles and different gatherings and, even drum circles and doing crazy things. And, I never walked on hot coals or anything, but I'm sure if I wanted to, I could find somebody. But then, and then eventually I kind of found Spiritism, and right at the time when I was ready, if I found it earlier, I would have said, no way. But when I actually like found the Spiritist Center and came in, it was like, okay, this like it all happened for a reason. It all happened at a good time, and here I am.
Yeah.
Having had a near-death experience, which made it very easy for
Make
me.
it big. Yeah, true. Yeah, a lot of people have that experience.
Yes, yes. I don't know of anybody else that ever talked about it. I talk about it a lot because I didn't need any convincing it, and I experienced it.
Right. Yes.
That I am not this body. This body is being run by the spirit that's inside of me.
That's wonderful.
And what was my name before it was Stanley Obish?
Yeah.
That's so reincarnation became a really reasonable thing.
Yeah. And you got to know this through your own experience.
Precisely.
So you didn't hear this from anybody else or learn from anybody else. You had the opportunity to experience.
I did have, like Steve, I did have a lot of exposure to these different disciplines, like the Course in Miracles, NLP, Neuro-Linguistic Programming. And I got that there's something here, I'm a pretty educated guy, but there are things that I really don't know, And then, of course, the near-death experience, I put it all together.
Yeah.
That there is something inside of me that I didn't know about before, or at least I may have known it, but I didn't acknowledge it as being different than this physical reality, that there was something else.
Yeah.
Finally, I came to the conclusion there are three realities. There's the physical reality, and that's what we walk around in this three-dimensional body, and when we look at a three-dimensional world. But then there's another reality called mentality, which is our mind, that gives rise to our physicality. And the third reality is what spirituality is all about. That's the third reality from which it all stems. And without knowing that spirit that's inside of us, we are not living in the complete reality.
I agree.
We need the spirituality as well. And to find that spirit that's inside of yourself, that's a life-changing experience.
I agree.
I don't know if it was in this book that I read it, because I've been studying a couple of different things, but Alan Kardec even said, eventually we'll all become spiritists, I mean, because we're gonna move on from this incarnation, and we're gonna find out like, oh, there's more to life than what we knew. Even the non-believers will wake up eventually, and but then it's interesting. Alan Kardec even said, Spiritism predates Spiritism. Like Spiritism has been around longer than Alan Kardec. It's actually been around since the beginning of recorded history.
Exactly.
It's just all these ideas and all this philosophy kind of coming together, and you have the Moses that had the great revelation and everything, and it's all kind of, and even Spiritism, it's not set in its ways, like it's a science too, because if Alan Kardec even says if something comes along that's better than Spiritism and can refute what Spiritism has said, like we'll strike it down and we'll we'll rebuild, we'll start over again.
True.
So it's not like it's not so dogmatic, nothing really set in stone.
Exactly. It's like any other science. It's
changing. It's
exactly.
always evolving. And,
yeah.
I think especially reading Kardec, a lot of the things he talks about, like you can't really argue with. So when I started reading the Spirits book, and it was like new to me. I had never really been, exposed to Spiritism before.
Mm-hmm.
So as I'm reading it, I'm kind of like, well, do I believe this? And I'm comparing it to the beliefs that I already had.
Mm-hmm.
So, I already witnessed, and I was already sort of seeing people practice mediumship. So when I'm reading about some of these things, I'm like, okay, I've seen that before. But then they talk about other things. I'm like, well, that's a little different from what I read, but or from what I've seen. But like, can I buy it or not?
Right, right.
So I'm kind of like negotiating with Kardec as I'm reading his literature sometimes. Right. But until I finally kind of decide, like, the evidence is too great, and a lot of times, like when I talk to people about Spiritism, especially like I said, I've been on a long journey that I've made a lot of friends that have different practices. And now that I'm practicing Spiritism, I'm finding myself a little bit more distant from some of my other friends. And maybe that's not a good thing, and maybe it's, I don't know. It's just, it is what it is, But we're starting to disagree about certain things.
Juliana! I need to stand up to. Wait.
We have another visitor.
Come here, sit whatever you like. This is Kelly, and this is Steve.
Iliana.
This is Iliana.
And Steve?
Hi.
Nice to meet you. Thank you.
Oh.
And I completely lost track of what I was saying. I had an important point I was going to make, though.
Iliana is like, she's like a superstar in this subject. Right? Right, Senorita? The critic. I don't know if you took a look at the topic.
I wasn't able to look at the video.
It's okay. It's totally fine. We are talking about a critic.
Okay.
This dialogue, this first dialogue is between Allan Kardec and the critic. So the critic, it's like, okay, Kardec, convince me.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
This is the real deal. Like, convince me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a critic. I'm famous. I'm gonna write a book about this. So it is good for you if you convince me, and I am on your side. And that's what we're talking. So through this dialogue, we will start to learn a little bit more about Spiritism from a different aspect of the Spiritism, because Kardec is talking with, it's going to be talking with three people. They are against the Spiritism. So we will see how he handles the conversation. So we were talking about our experiences.
I remember what I was about to say too, and I think this is Luigi talking to me, saying I was about to make a good point.
Oh,
I'm not sure.
Go ahead.
So what I was going to say was that a lot of the people that I talk to, they're spiritual people, but they're not necessarily spiritists. The main thing that kind of like they disagree with is actually, for them to adopt Spiritism would be like very inconvenient for them, because you'd have to like make a lot of changes and sacrifices and change the way you do things.
Right.
And it kind of like, it's like,
That's a good point.
A lot of my friends are charging money for mediumship, you know, and,
Right.
and we don't do that in Spiritism. I mean, and it's not, it's one of those things. It's like I can't tell somebody to take away their livelihood and you know and
Right.
you know how they're making money and how they're supporting their family, but it's like when you think about it, it's like, well, maybe you should think about it, and they don't want to think about it. You know?
That's a very good point, because when we have, I'm sure each one of us here, we had transformation in our lives, and every time we go through those transformations, it seems like seeing the cycles of friendship of people that you know, it changes a little bit. Do you agree with that? When you get to learn something that touches your heart deeply or your mind deeply, that you cannot be what you used to be, it challenges the group of people that you have a relationship
With. Mhm.
with. Do you agree?
Yeah, and I had a really beautiful experience when I was under hypnosis, and it was this moment where I had to go through a door, and I had to choose if I wanted to go through a small door and go by myself, or go through a big door and take everything I had. And I thought what I had was, you know, all my defects, all my flaws. But what it was actually three of my best friends, and they're in this sack, and I had to leave them behind. And what they said to me was, you know, we'll be there in another way, in another form. So as we like outgrow people, you know, or we transition away from that sort of, you know, alignment that we had with them, those same angels come and greet us through other folks in a different way. That was what I experienced through that, because I really didn't want to let them go, and I felt like I didn't have to, but I knew they wouldn't be exactly the same
Wow.
after the transformation.
I understand.
Yeah.
I understand. I
And
understand.
it sounds kind of self-righteous when you're like, well, I don't really want to see these people anymore
Yeah.
because they don't really believe what I believe. You know,
Exactly.
so, I mean, I feel a little funny about
Yeah.
that because,
Yeah.
you know, and we do service in Spiritism, and I used to do a lot of service before I got to Spiritism. So now I'm kind of doing a lot more service in the Spiritist Center, but then it's like, sometimes I'm like, well, I don't really want to do that anymore because it's not related to Spiritism. But I think it's really important to kind of keep those ties there, like not to like burn the bridges with people, because I mean I've had some really good experiences like recently doing service outside of the Spiritist Center with, you know, like regular humans that that was very rewarding. So I mean I think it's kind of important to kind of keep all.
Yeah, it is part of our development, our own development. In the beginning, especially for me, because I was too young and nobody in my family could give me any direction on this, about the spiritual life and spiritual development. So it was very hard for me, very, very hard. And back then I was in journalism. I was in radio and TV, so it's the opposite direction, very materialistic kind of group, right? Nowadays, we have a lot of spiritual segments in a show business. There are a lot of. Back then, we didn't have Deepak Chopra or Eckhart Tolle. No, nobody was talking about this.
Sunday.
Yeah, nobody was talking about this, and it was very hard for me. But this is also part of the development. Let's see. Is there any question from the internet? Someone wants to. Anyone wants to say something?
A lot of people like my T-shirt.
Oh my gosh.
It took me a long time to pick exactly what T-shirt to wear tonight. I'm glad I chose the right one.
Okay, so then the visitor is the critic here is starting like kind of to give an idea that if you convince me, if you succeed in convince me, you know, I will successfully support the cause you defend. And then Kardec goes on talking
he
about.
says like, oh, like people respect my opinion. So if you win me
Yeah.
as a if you convert me, then everybody will.
Right.
He kind of has an ego.
Right.
I don't know who the guy is. He sounds like a real character.
It's true. And then, well, they are French. Don't forget that. But just kidding. But then Kardec here says and talks a little bit about, gives him, because Kardec is very respectful with this guy. Regardless of what he's saying, he doesn't take it personal, and he shows that he understands, and he even explains that, like, because the guy wants to participate in one of the turning tables meeting. And he said, I just want to go to 1 or 2 meetings to see if it's real or not. And Kardec, but I took like a year to convince myself that what I was doing was right. How come you want to come in 1 or 2 meetings? You want to find out about everything that is, Spiritism. So he says, he's very direct here in this answer. He goes like, satisfy anyone's curiosity. So Kardec is not willing to satisfy, and this is for us. We don't have to satisfy anyone's curiosity. And if we take from the spiritual world, do they satisfy people's curiosity? No.
It's not my job. It's not my table. I don't serve that.
It's interesting too, because Andre Louise talks about when he's in No Solar and he's sort of studying the different jobs people are doing. They say, like, don't go fulfill your curiosity. We always I always kind of learn like curiosity is a good thing. Like, I'm interested in learning things.
Mm-hmm. Good point.
But I guess there's sort of a fine line between like the good curiosity of like, I'm really interested in learning, and the bad kind of curiosity is like, well, I just want to see like what I can do, like what I can get away with.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I'm when I see that word curiosity now, because now I see it like in regular literature, and they kind of make it kind of has a positive spin on it, and you go like, well, now I have this definition of curiosity, like maybe curiosity is a little dangerous. Like,
well, there are types of curiosity.
Yeah.
In this case, the guy was like, just give me your little show and let me see how it goes. He wasn't very serious about it.
I like the analogy he makes. He's like, well, if you were trying to like learn about space and you ask Galileo or somebody, can I?
Oh, that's
like,
great.
You've been spending your whole life studying
the
the stars. Can I just look at your telescope a couple of times and maybe I can prove that you're wrong? And he said, how can you just go to 2 meetings and somebody that's dedicated a lifetime of study and say that you can definitely, But Kardec, when he talks to the guy, he does sound very respectful at some points when he's talking to him about how he's an esteemed individual, and but the way he also kind of shuts him down is like, look, we have a lot of other people here who also have a very good character, that are here as well. So
true. A lot of beautiful things he says, and one beautiful thing here is coming up right now is that the guy, the critic says, but don't you want to add converts to this philosophy, this new philosophy? And then Kardec says, no, I have no intention to add anyone that is not sincerely interested in coming to these meetings. And then other comparison here, he says, I'm happy to answer them within the limits of my knowledge. So I thought this was very humble. Like in the beginning, when I was explaining or trying to convince people, I was not humble at all. I was not humble at all. Actually, very like snobbish. I was thinking that I knew more than people now because, I found out that we incarnate in several and thousands of different body experiences, and I know better and I know more, and I had no humility whatsoever.
I feel really smart when I like a couple of months ago I finished reading the book Genesis, and I closed the book and I was like, wow, I have so much knowledge Like it's all in here, like how the world started. I know everything now. Like, you know, I was like, what am I going to do with it? You know, I probably forgot most of it by now. But at that moment, it was like, yeah. And because I'm funny, I go right to like from being sort of righteous to self-righteous without, you know, I don't skip a beat.
You want to talk about true humility. It's like Jesus who says, I am the Father of one, which means he disappeared. Now that's true humility. How humble can you be?
Right, right. Eliana can say something about humility because she comes from, you were doing your PhD in Stanford, right?
I did my master's there.
Your master's there.
Yeah.
And what about this environment in comparison with the humility, the idea? What can you say about this?
I mean, specifically in Stanford, I had an experience that I think I spoke to you about, where I was studying at the law school, and it was a renowned psychologist that was speaking, and we were discussing conflict resolution, and he said that you cannot hold two opposing ideas in your head at the same time. Because if you believe one, then you negate the other one. If they're truly oppositional ideas, you can't believe that they're both true. You have to secretly believe one or the other. And I just thought he was so small-minded at that moment. Like, how arrogant to think that one can be over another. When you're talking about oppositional forces in nature and life and ideas, you can't just rule one out and arrogantly stick to one and just rule out the other. So I saw a lot of that sort of groupthink, or sort of that blind eye to the dialectic that is life, to this ever-moving tension that we reside in. And I just thought, if you can't appreciate that, how are you ever going to really resolve any of these conflicts?
I want to ask you a question.
Yeah.
You objected to him saying that you can't hold two positions at the same time?
Yeah.
Well, the whole idea of conflict resolution is where you give up your position for a moment and put on the other guy's, put on his shirt and tie, you know, and you become
right.
and start thinking like him.
Well, that's how we would see it, but then he would see that as a loss in his, because there's no humility. The arrogance requires complete domination and convergence of the other.
Humility, isn't it? When you give up your own ego and position and your own view of yourself, and you take on the other's persona, and you take on the other's,
but in
extract his spirit and let it become yours, so that you can resolve this conflict.
I suppose in that spirit, that yes, that would be humble, but he's internalizing it to where he was the only right way. It's that ultimately there is one that's only right. It's not about the experience of walking in the shoes of the other. It's almost like you don't do that because you want to stay right, as opposed to being able to hold space for both of these oppositional ideas. Because true humility isn't just forgetting about yourself and negating yourself. It's honoring both. Right?
I'm not saying I get what you're saying, but I found that to be a very wonderful technique for resolving conflict in my own. I was a doctor, and in my own office we had problems, and I learned about conflict resolution.
But do you think
it really does work?
Right. So if there were two folks in front of you that totally disagreed, don't you think both of them could be true, like both of their?
But when one puts on the other shoes and walks in their shoes for a little while,
right,
that their thinking and their feelings change.
Yes.
Right.
And which goes toward, and then the other one has to do the same damn thing, and suddenly there's no conflict any longer. Hey, I know you. You're just like me. This is I think it's a very valuable technique. Okay.
It is when you're honoring both sides, but when you don't believe that two sides can exist, when you think only one, there ultimately has to be one that's right, there would be no value in putting on the other shoes. The value is in the fact that both truths are true, and that the wisdom is found in that middle ground.
Well, what would Solomon say?
You know? I don't know.
Say cut it in half and each of you.
Well, thank you, Juan. You are a conflict resolution lawyer and you're not here tonight. You are in Spain. And I know you're going to watch this video, so guess what? We are talking about conflict resolution. But that's a very good example. I love that. I love what you said. It makes us think about the variation, as you said, of the different positions and situations of life and nature, and so many other things.
That's why we have to be humble. We don't know what
Exactly.
the purpose or the extent of the other existence is.
Yeah. You want to say something, Stanley?
Yeah, I hate to disagree with somebody because I know when I'm disagreeing with, I have a
you
very
can.
hard time.
We are talking
That's
about
okay.
the critic here. We can't disagree.
Well, I think
Anything
we
we
actually
want.
agree. I think we have the same perspective that conflict resolution can be achieved through honoring both extremes of a conflict. I think this particular professor believed that ultimately one had to dominate the other, so that there would not be a middle ground that was found. And so that was what I felt that was so short-sighted, because you really have to understand. For example, this one, it was the Israel-Palestine conflict. You have to really understand the history of both sides to understand the depth of that conflict and why it exists. And so one will never necessarily agree with the other, but both are still true and valid. So maybe we were disagreeing on something, but we're both true and valid.
Good conversation. I like it. And then Kardec says something very interesting about this convincing and trying to convince the critic. He said, I'm certain that conviction will come to anyone sooner or later, and that unbelievers will be carried by the current. Don't we see that in our society? Things like, for example, technology. There are people that refuse to work with technology. How are they going to survive if they want to be part of a society that depends on technology to, develop themselves? I'm not talking, I'm from Amazon. I'm not talking like someone that lives in the middle of the jungle and really don't need it. The only thing that they need is a canoe and, and something, a tool to catch the fish so they can eat. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about.
You've come a long way.
Yeah, I did. I'm talking about these technology that people are part of, and I'm not saying that I'm totally cool with the technology, because I think there's some minds that they're using and abusing of the system, but we're not going that. I'm just saying that a lot of companies and a lot of professionals, they need to be open for technology in order for them to move on and to be walking with just like any other professionals and other things too. Can you think about anything else that sooner or later will come?
Well, I think that on the scale of consciousness, humanity, in other words, what we're living through right now, is still at a very low level. And as we rise in our consciousness, and so Spiritism that we're talking about now, that seems so obvious to us, that we're at a high level of consciousness and we're able to see it. And it's just
sooner or later, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm saying that,
this knowledge,
but it's a matter of evolution.
Right.
Evolution, okay?
Yeah.
I mean, we would like a revolution, we'd like everybody to know tomorrow, but that's not the way it works.
No.
It takes
Yes,
time.
it takes time.
Yeah, I was thumbing through my pages and I found one from Alan Kardec. He says, Spiritism has entered the realm of serious individuals who do not entertain themselves with it, but they seek enlightenment. So, you know, I was thinking about how, you know, when we have our lectures here, and we have, you know, a lot of, you know, we have English lectures here every Wednesday night here in Bar Spirit Society, and a lot of our lectures are focused on, you know, the gospel and, you know, things that like they're really like a lot of practical information, like how you can improve your life. Like you can go to the lecture and get ideas, and like you can go home and start practicing, you know, if you're interested. But you know, when we have these lectures, we have a few people showing up and some coming, and we have a few regular people. But then when we have our lectures with maybe somebody come doing some kind of manifestation, you know,
True.
all of a sudden the whole place is packed,
It's
you know,
packed.
and
It's
people want to see the phenomenon. So
Yeah,
it's like, and that's not really what Spiritism is all about. You know,
True.
it's a part of it, but and this is kind of where we talk about the curiosity. They're kind of curious, and they want to say like, oh, can you give me the answers, and what can you give me? But when we have like a lecture about
right.
the gospel, where it's like it's really up to you to like search inside yourself to find your own answers and try to become a better person. Like, who wants to hear all that? You know?
Give them the magic pill.
Yeah. I want the lottery numbers.
The
you know?
blue and the red. I forgot.
Yeah.
What is it? The blue or the red one?
You know, the
I
Matrix.
forgot for the movie. Doesn't matter, but it's true. It's always and this when the San Francisco Spiritual Society became an online only, that the one that I was part of. I used to get a lot of calls in the mail of people searching for the spirits communication. Oh, do you have a spirits communication with the spirits?
Mhm.
Do you have that? No. Oh, okay. Thank you. Bye. So they were looking for the phenomena, and I understand there are a lot of people that are not serious about their evolution. They want as Jesus spoke about the wider door, the larger,
the narrow path.
the narrow path, but the one that was the large door that everybody always goes through, but the one that is the
It's hard to go through the eye of the
narrow, yeah,
Yeah.
and that too. But well, I hope I'm not searching for the easiest path, but because this is something that is personal, and I need to take responsibility of my own evolution. It is not something that a priest or a medium or someone will do that for me, and it's not possible. And that's not easy. That's not easy. When we realize that in the Spiritism, that if we want to see this magical world
I
outside,
gotta tell you an experience I had last Wednesday with
Uh-huh.
Neil here, the medium.
Mhm.
You know, as convinced as I am with my own near-death experience and so on. But when he said he was reading me, and he said, "You got a pain in your right side." Okay. Yes, I mean, he knew what was going on. He was able to do that, and which is a phenomenon.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I can't tell you how much that convinced me, really
Yeah.
me.
And it's beautiful too. It's a beautiful experience,
Oh, absolutely.
right?
I just,
It's a beautiful
it
experience.
was like a watershed experience, you know, a
Yeah,
simple thing like that, right?
yeah, it's true. It's true.
He was experiencing the pain in my right side, which he knew.
We just don't have to get lost in there. I actually, in the beginning of my studies with the Spiritism, I was the opposite. I wanted everything but the phenomena. I don't know if it's because I've read all the Kardec's book before I attended to a Spiritist center, but I wanted everything but the phenomena. I didn't want the phenomena because I thought I would be lost in that, and I will just be addicted to the phenomena, and
Why didn't you want the phenomena?
because I wanted a personal transformation, a deep one. I wanted to change. I was suffering a lot with my pride. I was like, my ego was huge, fragile, and I was suffering. So I wanted to change. I wanted to change the fact I thought I was spoiled, kind of personality, very spoiled, very.
Was perhaps you were afraid of the phenomenon because you were afraid that your ego would come in and not be convinced, and it would interfere with your
Correct.
spiritual growth.
I would get lost somehow,
Ah.
and I would give up, or so I
So
said.
the phenomena would interfere with it.
Exactly. So I said, if I have to deal with that, if I have to see that, be part of that, that will be later on. For now, there was something in me, something, an instinct, like something very strong, an idea that I had first to study, read, and really see for myself my own transformation and take care of my transformation before the phenomena. Because there in Brazil, it's we have a lot of spiritist center, and not only that we have the inherited African segments too, like the Umbanda and others that people. Let's put it this way: communications with the spirits in Brazil, it's not something very hard to have and to find, and it is easy to find. And
I really believe in that.
Yeah, and they were really practicing left and right everywhere. So because I saw the amount of people, the phenomena, I was like, I wanted a different path. I wanted a different approach. But it was just a personal thing. There was something in me, an instinct in me that said, don't go there yet. Wait until you have more information, you have more knowledge, and then you go. And in fact, the second book I've read, it was the Medium's book, and Kardec says a lot of things, and very serious things, about the communication with the spirits, how dangerous they can be. It can be if you are not prepared. It is just like someone that is going to stop a fire and then don't have the tools to stop the fire, and then you can burn yourself and you can die, and it's dangerous. So I thought I needed more knowledge in order to deal with that.
So you're afraid of it.
Yeah.
That was kind of my experience. Is I got interested in Spiritism because I wanted to get with the phenomena, because I was like, I heard like, oh, you read the Medium's book and it'll tell you how to become a medium. So I wrote, like, I knew it was the second book, so I was like, well, I got to do it right. I read the Spirits book within like a month. And a lot of people say like, that's amazing because it's such a big book. But I kind of like skimmed through it. I probably need to reread it. And then I started reading the Medium's book, and I was like, okay, like, how do I do it? Like, where's the secret? It's in here somewhere, So I keep reading through it, and then all I really found was like them saying that we need to, let go of our pride and ego, and not be so selfish, and we need to, practice charity, and we need to, like, rid ourselves of our defects and all these things. And I'm like, well, where's the mediumship part in it? I don't know if I missed it or what, but that's kind of like all I really got out of the book was really about that. I don't think that, maybe I'm not ready for it, or, maybe the time will come one day, but, at this point, I'm still kind of working on my self-development. That's what I got out of reading the Medium's book, was how much work I really need to do on myself and my personality, my character defects, everything, and kind of put it all on the table and kind of reevaluate. And so I, ever since then, like, I came into Spiritism really interested in phenomena. Now I'm kind of more interested in personal development.
Interesting. I thought you were just after the phenomenon. Can I ask, since we're We're gonna stop here on the second page, which is fine because it brings a lot of good uh, topics for us to talk about, and we can totally bring this conversation to. We're gonna get into uh, politics too later on. It's fun. It's gonna be fun. Can I ask Ileana to read this for us? You probably know this text. It's go ahead.
Conversation in the Womb, a parable of life after delivery. In a mother's womb, there were two babies. One asked the other, "Do you believe in life after delivery?" The other replied, "Why, of course. There has to be something after delivery. Maybe we are here to prepare ourselves for what we will be later." "Nonsense," said the first. "There is no life after delivery. What kind of life would that be?" The second said, "I don't know, but there will be more light than here. Maybe we will walk with our legs and eat with our mouths. Maybe we will have other senses that we can't understand now." The first replied, "That's absurd. Walking isn't possible, and eating with our mouths? How ridiculous. The umbilical cord supplies nutrition and everything we need. But the umbilical cord is so short, life after delivery is to be logically excluded." The second insisted, "Well, I think there's something, and maybe it's different than it is here. Maybe we won't need this physical cord anymore." The first replied, "Nonsense. And moreover, if there is life, then why has no one ever come back from there? Delivery is the end of life. And in the after the delivery, there is nothing but darkness and silence and oblivion. It takes us nowhere." "Well, I don't know," said the second, "but certainly we will meet Mother, and she will take care of us." The first replied, "Mother? You actually believe in Mother? That's laughable. If Mother exists, then where is she now?" The second said, "Well, she is all around us. We are surrounded by her. We are of her. It is in her that we live. Without her, this world would not and could not exist." The first said, "Well, I don't see her. So it's only logical that she doesn't exist." To which the second replied, "Sometimes when you're in silence and you focus and you really listen, you can perceive her presence and you can hear her loving voice calling down from above."
Beautiful.
This is from Wayne Dyer's book.
Yeah, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know her.
Yeah. He knows him personally. That's wonderful. I like him very much.
You just had dinner with him last night, right?
Huh?
You had dinner with him last night, right?
No, he's dead. What do you mean?
Of course you did.
Yeah, I'm just kidding.
Oh.
You're talking about his spirit?
Could be. I don't know.
You can't say it wasn't at your house.
That's true. That's true. Okay, so we are going to close, and I invite you to do like it's a really a minute meditation. It's actually a meditation from the Heart Math Institute. So it's connecting with the heart coherence. It's very good. I invite you to gently close your eyes, please, and gently shift your attention away from the mind and emotions and focus in the heart area. Allow yourself to breathe slowly through the heart, chest area throughout this technique. For some, it helps to place your hand over your heart for easier focus, yet it isn't necessary. Now focus on creating a genuine feeling of appreciation and care for someone or something positive in your life. And really try to feel the emotions of appreciation and care, as this anchors you more deeply in the heart. While maintaining your focus in the heart area, gently send positive feelings of appreciation, care, and love to yourself or others. As you catch your mind wandering, gently refocus your breathing back through the heart and reconnect with attitude of care and appreciation. Relax and refocus on breathing appreciation. This helps to release the stored and repressed emotional hurt and pain. Try to sincerely sustain those feelings of appreciation, of care, and love as long as you can. And whenever you want, you can open your eyes again and come back to this room. And this was our final prayer. Okay, we're close. We're done. Bye.
Thank you to everybody. If you want to join us again, we'll be back here next Tuesday evening, 8 p.m. at Broward Spirit Society,
That's true.
Spiritism Network. So join us. You can chat with us live on Hangouts. It looks like we only have one Hangout viewer right now. So I hope.
Bye,
hope you don't miss
Clara.
anything. But keep in touch, all right? Beijos.
Bye.
Bye.
This was wonderful.